am back in Nashville, Tennessee. Hope everybody's had a great start to their morning. Now, the question is, can the Tennessee Titans get you off to a great start to your week? Because coming off a 3-game losing streak, the first since 2018, they got to figure out a way to get right against a Chargers team that's playing really high-level football right now. So we're going to talk about 3 keys to success, as is the custom here before we get things off and rolling. We are also going to hear some analysis from Greg Cosell and an interesting note from Titans head coach Mike Vrabel that he said on Friday. Justin Tomaselli says, desperate to get back in the win column. Well, you know who else is desperate? The Chargers. Chargers trying to get in the playoff hunt at this point. So, I think it's desperation on both sides, and one is decidedly more comfortable than the other. So we'll talk about how they can avoid going down to dropping down to 500 and get into the conversation that way. Before we get started, though, need you guys to share this show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We would appreciate you doing so. If you are on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That is in the bottom left. YouTube and Twitch, you can like the video. You can subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. If you have, make sure you do so again, and tell a friend to do exactly the same. We would appreciate that as well. Trilogy Taylor says it's going to be a long afternoon. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. I'm going to be there, and certainly we will see what there is to be seen between the Titans and the Chargers. And the injury report, kids, for Tennessee. Oof. We're going to talk about it together. Let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. Welcome into Titan Game Day morning, live from Los Angeles, Inglewood, California, to be specific, where we will head over to the stadium momentarily. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford always has the best quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for the intel edge you need to succeed in your dream address without the stress. Superbook Sports, they'll help you get in on all the action. We're, 2 hours away from most of the games kicking off, or the afternoon, the early slate kicking off. You can get in on the action with Superbook Sports. They'll match your first bet up to $1,000, win or lose. So, as we today we are all Dylan Radins fans, as Caleb Hubman. Well, there is an interesting note about Dylan Radins that we're going to talk about today, because I'm really curious to see how that plays out. But you know how this goes. Give me your biggest key. Give me one. I'm going to give you 3, but you give me your biggest key to success for the Tennessee Titans today. We're going to talk about that together in just a second, because there's a variety of different things that you can look at. Obviously, the injury report is dire. Let's just go through it for the sake of and by the way, some updates as far as the personnel is concerned. The situation for Tennessee is less than ideal. In particular, the players that were already ruled out on Friday when Mike Vrabel met with the media. So now we're looking at a situation where they're going to be without Danico Autry again. Traylon Burks is not playing. CJ Board was put on IR yesterday. Amani Hooker is out. So is Christian Fulton. Dontrell Hilliard also to IR, and Trey Avery, who at least was making practice this week. So none of those dudes are going to play. Obviously, Traylon Burks and Danico Autry being the most important misses, but, Dontrell Hilliard's probably been their best receiver this year. It's a question as to, all right, how are they going to figure this thing out? We've seen some positive developments with guys like Chig. Is that enough? Are they going to make a legitimate change at left tackle today? Mike Vrabel kind of alluded to that. So we're going to do keys to success here in just a second, right after I remind you that A to Z Sports Titan Game Day morning was presented, or is presented, by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford 2023 model year Fords available for you right now to go test drive at the dealership in Mount Juliet. It's been a while since they've been fully stocked at the dealership, but now is the time, right before the holidays. Perfect timing, as always. Escapes, F-150s, Bronco Sports, Mustang Mach-E's, so many great vehicles with the best customer service that you will find. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. So the first key to success today is protecting Ryan Tannehill. Protecting Ryan Tannehill is going to be critical. The offensive line play, let's just say offensive line play in general. Now, obviously, offensive line play, particularly on the left side of the Titans offensive line, has been a shit show. And they've been trying to figure stuff out. Well, it seems they have at least reached a point. I don't know that they're going to make a change. I don't know that there's going to be a change necessarily to the starting lineup. I'm not sure whether Dennis Daly's going to come out as the starting left tackle today or not. But it's the first time, Friday was the first time that we've heard Mike Vrabel allude to the idea that there might be something different coming. And that something sounds like it involves former second round pick, Dylan Radins.
Keith Carter mentioned yesterday, I think, that Dylan had been taking some snaps beyond just the guard spot. How has he done in that regard? And is there any chance he might factor in the mix?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that we'll keep working with Dylan. I did some good stuff when he's been able to go in there. He's played a couple of different positions for us. Tried to expand where he's at. So we'll see kind of where things lead on Sunday, and pretty good chance he'll probably play multiple positions.
So a pretty good chance that Dylan Radins is going to play multiple positions. Now, what exactly that means, who's to say? I think that it's likely that we at least see some snaps for Radins at left tackle. And I think at this point, the situation for the Titans, if just at least try it, like just try something. You know what I'm saying? Try something different than what has been happening, because 7 sacks is what Dennis Daly has allowed in his last 4 games, right? For context, there was a stat, I believe, by Mike Herndon earlier this week that Taylor Lewan in his last 5 games played, despite all the frustrations that you have with Taylor's availability, and they're justified, by the way, in his last 5 games, Lewan allowed 2 total pressures. In his last 4 games, Dennis Daly has allowed 7 sacks. There's a marked difference between what you are currently working with and what you have been accustomed to with 77 on the left side. So I don't know. Dylan Radins could be worse. It's entirely possible that it could be worse, but at least they are open to considering something else at this point, because it is untenable to continue at this rate. So that's my first key to success: protect Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to give you my second and third. We're going to read some of yours as well on this Titan Game Day morning, right after I remind you that Titan Game Day morning is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress. The Ashton team has the intel edge you need to succeed. That intel edge helps you sell your home without any showings or staging, helps you find your next home while the market is still hot, helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity right now. GaryAshton.com is the place that you can go for that intel edge to find your dream address without the stress, or sell your home for more. GaryAshton.com. So what is your biggest key to success? Trey Yanni says, got to get pressure on Herbert. Titans have had 4 sacks in their last 4 games. They have not been getting pressure. Danico Autry obviously has missed, I believe it is now, this will be game number 4 that Danico misses without going on injured reserve. Now, we understand why that's the case, but yes, they have to be able to find ways to get pressure on Justin Herbert. And that's was something that Greg Cosell, we talked specifically about Justin Herbert this week with Greg Cosell on this week's episode of The Install, the podcast that Greg and I do together. He was at his most efficient. I saw the numbers courtesy of ESPN Stats and Info. 10 of 11, 164 in the touchdown outside the pocket in this game. He was so much fun to watch.
He moved a lot because he had to. I
Right.
mean, there were plays in which there was design movement clearly, but their O-line, which is not very good, by the way, had issues in pass protection, and Herbert was forced to move. And he was outstanding with his downfield vision and ball placement on the move. And their offense at its core is incredibly rhythmic. And that returns to our conversation about the lack of a pass rush by the Titans. Herbert's not necessarily a quarterback, particularly on early downs. Obviously, everything changes on 3rd and long, but on early downs, he's hard to sack because they're very rhythmic. The ball comes out. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup for the Titans D. And now that they have everybody back, because Williams is back, Allen's back, while they were out, Josh Palmer, who you're very familiar with, has showed himself to be a quality wide receiver who's a really good 3 and is actually more talented than that and could be more than that depending on what the future holds. So, you're dealing with a team that has a lot of weapons. They have a really good receiving back in Eckler. The O-line is an issue. And again, I don't know, based on what's happened with the Titans in recent weeks, we don't know at this point. Right now, we'd have to say that their sub-front pass rush is a bit of a question mark, unless Autry's back.
Right. And certainly watch. I mean, even Gerald Everett, like the tight end that the Chargers have, they find ways to get him in space and he just makes plays. Like it's really cool to see them kind of operating that way. And you mentioned the offensive line. Slater, the stud left tackle, has been out for a considerable amount of time. I don't think, it doesn't sound like it's going to be this week, but Staley was talking as if both he and Joey Bosa may be able to return off injured reserve here in the near future, which would be huge for them as they kind of get down the stretch.
Sure, and keep in mind that they're playing Salyer, the rookie from Georgia, who I'm sure you're familiar with, being in SEC country. Everybody thought he was a guard coming out, and he's played left tackle. He's been very up and down. This past week, they started Farrell, I think his name is. I can't remember.
Matt Farrell?
No, it's he was actually a big-time recruit who went to Stanford, but he was an undrafted player, and he only made his 2nd NFL start this past week, Sunday night. It was the Sunday night game. So, I mean, their O-line has not been really good, and Herbert has had to try to make, chicken salad out of what. But he can make great throws on the move. And then he's got the big arm that when they do call a shot play, he certainly can get the ball down the field over the top of the defense.
So that's Greg Cosell talking about Justin Herbert. Obviously, pressure is critical. They have not been able to pressure the quarterback as of late. Danico Autry's been the most difficult replacement that the Titans have had to find at this point this season. David Allen says, no disagreement. Just remember some media ranting that the fans who were calling for changes on the offensive line were dumb because Radens was worse than Daly. Well, I mean, the coaching staff clearly thinks so. So, that was the correct position. That they're so desperate that they're willing to at least force their hand because they won't put him on the field over Aaron Burr, who's not very good. They won't put him on the field over Dennis Daly until this is week 15. So, if that doesn't tell you everything that the coaching staff thinks about Dylan Radens, I don't know what else to say. But obviously, the Dennis Daly experience it's nightmare fuel. And so, if you're going to have to deal with nightmare fuel anyway, go ahead and send Dylan Radens out there and at least see if you've got something from a former 2nd-round pick, I suppose. All right. So keys to success. The third one, obviously, no turnovers. They had 4 last week, -4 in the turnover differential. They're -2 on the season. They cannot have the turnovers. They haven't had a turnover. So basically, let's just say turnovers in general. Get some and don't give it away because you're -4 coming off that Jags game. You haven't had an intercept. You haven't had a turnover. You haven't recovered a fumble or gotten an interception since the Broncos game. So it has been a month. It has been over a month since they have had a turnover, and that is not a way that this Titans team can exist. They need short field, or they need field position. They need to be able to capitalize because they don't get a ton of offensive possessions to put them in positions to succeed, to capitalize on short fields. They're not doing they're just not able to do a variety of things without getting pressure on the quarterback. And obviously the biggest missing piece in the last month, Treylon Burks matters, but Danico Autry, it seems, matters a great deal more. So let us go ahead and discuss the best bet for the week. It's presented by Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is where you go to wager this season. No matter what season it is, they will allow you to get in on the action and take the fight to the best odds makers on the strip at the Superbook in Las Vegas. Superbook.com for terms and conditions, where they'll match your first bet up to $1,000. Get great odds boost and promo bets on your favorite teams at Superbook.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So the best bet, if you're feeling a Titans upset, they're plus 130 on the money line. The line itself is Chargers by 4. It's not a big line. This team is these teams match up in interesting ways. Titans have a not very good pass defense right now. Obviously, the secondary is a mess, and so is the pass rush. But the Chargers can't stop anybody on the ground. They are giving up the 5th most rushing yards per game in the NFL. And obviously, in the first half, the Titans were able to run the football again. I thought that they were run blocking well. 14 points in the first quarter was huge for this team. And, they literally fumbled away an opportunity to get a win. But yes, if you're feeling the Titans as an upset candidate, plus 130 on the money line will be your best bet. All right. Herbert is School the Pro says Herbert is Jamarcus Russell 2.0. Oh, you just don't know anything about football then, do you? Good God. Herbert is Jamarcus Russell 2.0. What kind of nonsensical bullshit is that? Which seems like a good way to end the show today. Hope you guys enjoy the football. I'm heading over. I'm going to shower, put my suit on, and head over to SoFi and get after it today. Hopefully we will see something interesting. All I root for is a good game. And if the Titans come out 500, well, then we're going to have a much larger discussion about how they can handle hanging on to the division, because the Jags and the Cowboys at the Jags today. That's a pretty interesting game to me. And one that it looks, based on how the Cowboys have played against the Colts and the Texans, one that I think the Jags may have a shot at. Anyway, have a great rest of your afternoon. I will talk to you on Titans Radio in like an hour and a half. See you guys.